So did we talk about how much hair dye you've used on that to begin with, Crossy?
Webster, you're in no position to talk about haircuts. Mate, particularly yours is incredibly shiny at the moment. Hello, mate. How are we doing?
Good, thanks. I've told you it's because you always sit underneath a spotlight when you're a bald guy. I don't know how it works. That's all I know.
Why would you do that?
Well, I knew we were chatting today, so I was thinking, right, what do I speak to Crossy about? And the first thing that popped into my head was, I think we just both got to the club 2002, and you spiked your foot on Princes Street Gardens on the fence, right? And then it was like, I've done this on a Saturday night. I don't know how I get round it on a Monday morning. And I can't remember what you said. It would have been Barty and Muchie, maybe. To be fair, they might have been with you.
Thanks, Webber. Yeah, so that's a good start. Yeah, I think I tried to jump over Princes Street Garden fence, but actually I trod on a nail on the wooden floorboards in Smith's Place Palace. So, yeah, I ended up I think I scored a piece of bone off the bottom of my foot and couldn't train for about 3 weeks.
Yeah. The thing I remember about that flat was actually, do you remember the rule that we had that every time you went to the shop to buy something like a bottle of milk, you had to come back with a magazine? And then your girlfriend at the time came round and we had a lot of magazines lying around.
Yeah, but they're car magazines, Webber.
Yeah, lots of car magazines.
Yeah. What I remember about that was I've got some horrible memories of cooking and trying to teach each other how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
And if I said to you now, honey and mustard sauce.
Yeah, puke.
With the full bits of carrot in it, which we probably ate 3 or 4 times a week with a couple of chicken breasts and some. I can't smell it now without just pointing.
It was like on that kind of, if you get like a drink that's on your blacklist that you just can't go near again. It's like that. It's just that whiff of it was horrendous.
How's your cooking skills? Have they improved?
Yeah. So with this lockdown thing, I've decided to take on scones because they're pretty easy. So I've found a good scone recipe. I think I've nailed it. And then we also we were kind of struggling for coffee, so we got a kind of grinder, and then it kind of makes the espresso, and then it's gives you kind of frothy milk and stuff. But just with a bit more time on the hands. But it's been
changed. I'm still instant coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you still 8 a day?
What teachers do, isn't it?
That's what Sam Hewitt used to be just before he was actually giving you any medicine with his. I remember
Smith used to do before a game, have about 15,000 coffees. And then Yeah, remember Smith, he was about high on caffeine. As soon as the caffeine pills were kind of made legal, Smith used to fired about 15 of them in.
Yeah. But some athlete though, that guy.
He could move.
Yeah. It was the run. It was the run against. I think it was South Africa in about 2003 maybe or 6, and he kind of had. There was this call where he basically got it off the top, literally running in the 12 channel, and he kind of went down. He kind of whacked Schalkberger. Is that how you pronounce it?
Good enough.
Close enough, yeah. And then he basically went down the back line, literally just skittling all the kind of South African backs. And to be fair, he didn't actually make many yards forward, but he basically got to the winger before 2 people got hold of him and tackled him. But what an athlete that guy was. I can't remember what he benched, probably more than the ATU benched, but he was good. What's that?
I was a very powerful man.
You were, mate. You were.
Yeah.
So
now, are you unashamedly? You're obviously, with the background you've got, working for Dan T.
Yeah.
Doing what? Making coffee.
Yeah, green tea. I make him. He likes to drink green tea, the big guy. So, he's a good rugby player.
No, he was a good player. I had him at Ackies, to be fair.
I knew that.
Yeah, of course. So you're now working for a building company.
Yeah. I know where you're going with this, by the way.
People's houses.
Yeah.
Good. Do you want to talk us through some of your DIY efforts in the past?
No.
specifically referring to the bathroom in Bellevue?
Well, to be fair, mate, that bathroom cost £199 from behind the checkout in B&Q. So what do you really expect to get for £199? And it had a shower, a bath, a basin, and a toilet for £199. I think it was made out of paper mache paper.
What did you use for the grouting, mate, between the tiles and the bath?
We didn't have any grout.
You're right, we did. Why not?
We only had expanding foam. Yeah. I can't believe you've gone from a profession. You've gone to attack my profession straight off the bat.
I've got children everywhere, carnage, chopped tacklers. Yeah, good times.
That's too much hair, Senna. Too much hair, mate.
I think everyone's on too much hair at the moment. Right, can you two go downstairs, please?
Listen, nobody wants to know about my DIY. Nobody wants to know about this stuff.
What about cars?
Cars, yeah.
How many? Let's talk. What's your favourite car that you had when you were at Edinburgh?
My favourite car that I had at Edinburgh. I don't know, actually. Favourite car. My favourite car story whilst we were at Edinburgh was, so I can't remember what year it was, and like it was December, and we got like loads more snow than we'd had for like ages. And like kind of typical kind of city, like when there's snow, everybody just kind of panics and closes everything. And like nobody was really going out in the cars. And then you had that Subaru that you bought for £6,000. Which was, to be fair, it was a good buy. And you called everyone up and was like, guys, don't panic. I've got 4-wheel drive. I'll come and get you. So me and you left, because I think we were still living in Bellevue. So we left Bellevue, went through Cannon Mills, and then we were going to Mike's house in Trinity. And we kind of went round the park for some reason. I think we went that way because the roads were wider and we thought we could do more skids. And then like you kind of came around this corner. Me and Mike were talking about this in the week. And you came around this corner, the one near the bowling green, and you were like it's just so gives you such confidence, the grip levels. I mean, even when you floor it, you can control the skid. And you floored it, the whole car started skidding, and we started like screaming across the road sideways. And I knew there was a massive curb that was kind of hidden by all the snow. And I remember hitting that curb, and wow, the kind of noise of alloy on curb with like people in the car. And like, it wrecked the tyre, didn't it?
Indestructible, mate.
Yeah.
It was still going until about this time last year, 200,000 miles on it. Yeah. 15 years old, couldn't get a better car. I want to talk about your first big car purchase, though. When you hit the big time, Webber, you've got a load of caps for Edinburgh. You're a mainstay in the Scotland national team. What did you go and do? Completely against your old man's recommendations.
So we started looking at cars on the internet, as we did on Auto Trader, and we were like, "Hey mate, do you see what you can buy for £7,000?" And then a week later, it was like, "Hey, can you see what you can buy for £10,000?" And then 3 weeks later, it was, "Can you see what you can buy for £25,000?" And then, yeah, one thing led to another, and we test drove some stuff. And yes, I bought a car, and yes, I crashed it 2 weeks later, and we never saw the car again. But do you know the funny thing about that, the whole thing, which I don't think many people know, is so that when I crashed that car, and it was obviously written off, it's sad, but I just wanted to get something kind of back to basics and just to kind of get me around town. And Al Kellick, I think his father-in-law had like an auction in Glasgow. So Al Kellick was like, "Listen, Webber, like come across to Glasgow, like my kind of father-in-law, he'll hook you up with just a kind of cheap run around whilst you kind of get going again and work out what you want." I was like, right, great. So I went over there, and the only thing that this guy recommended me, he was like, "This is really good value. It'll be cheap as chips. It's in really good condition, but it's like I think it was like was it like a mini Metro or something?"
Yeah,
it was like, yeah, like honestly, like that thing. So anyway, I was like driving that around town for like a week or so, and it was the worst car ever. Like every time it started, I started laughing because it was just, I think it cost £250, this car. like full stop. But one morning I got in it on Bellevue Road. You mustn't have been giving you a lift. Your car must have started that day. And I got in it and I was like, and the door just opened. And I was like, and I kind of sat in there and I was like, that was weird. I don't think I opened the door. And then I kind of sat there and I was like, this just doesn't really feel right. And I was like, this is strange. Anyway, so I put the keys in the ignition, went to start the car and realized someone had got into the car and nicked the steering wheel, like just the steering wheel. And that was it. And the car was perfect. Hadn't even touched the radio. They'd just got in, taken the steering wheel and ran. And then that was actually that car written off because it took the steering wheel. Yeah, but it was good times. I mean, what year was that? So that would have been about 2004?
2004, 5. So that was a pretty good, those were good times. And actually, we did around the pitch then. That was we just kind of turned a corner because we'd all kind of grown up through that under-19s group because Frank had signed you, me, Mike, Rory Lawson, Matt Day, Al Kellock, Tommy Phillip, Ali. I think the group of us came through at the same time from the under-19. Yeah. And then 2-3 years later, we were going pretty well. And then we won every group game in Europe that year.
I was watching that. They did it on Edinburgh Rugby with this the Toulouse game. And like, you kind of forget, like, obviously the game's changed an awful lot since then, but like, you kind of forget like that pack was pretty awesome. Like Simon Taylor, like he was phenomenal. And like Scott Murray, Nathan Hines, like Wagger used to just fight with everybody. It was brilliant playing behind him. He just used to annoy everybody and then punch them. And back in the day, he was great.
But I'll never forget that day because it was really cold. It was freezing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember going back in because you come into the ground, you'd get yourself, you'd stick all your stuff in the change room, you'd go out and have a look at the pitch, see what was going on, and then you'd walk back into the change rooms before the team warm up. And I'll never forget walking past Emil Ntamack and Palouse.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the look Ntamack gave Palouse when then he just kind of shrugged. He just like was like, "Ooh," and then he kind of just literally turned in and walked back inside. Didn't even come out.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell you what, I'm not sure these boys want to be here. And it's one of those games where we just kind of hung in. Then Buffer did what Buffer does. And then Brendan scored. But yeah, mate, it was a hell of a game.
Who was that guy who played for 8 for Toulouse? Was it Issa Tolemaka or Finau Maka?
Tola was the 8, and Finau was the hairy's number 7. A hell of a player. But Issa Tola was about 6'1" and about 18, 19 stone.
Yeah, he was
hardest man I've ever tried to tackle. It was literally speed bump, just dive at his kneecaps and hope that someone else can come and finish him off. Want to talk about tackle technique or?
Not really.
No. You and Martin Williams, you still chat. You were, to be fair, you were probably the best attacking player. You and Mike, I'll be honest with you, Mike Blair was unreal in terms of finding a hole in it. But in terms of hole running and finding a gap where there wasn't one, like you were easily the best player that I'd ever played with in terms of that timing or just stupidity / bravery to kind of get through that. Which game was it where you got the inside ball off Scotty Murray to score and we won? Which can you remember that?
It was Heineken Cup game, Wasps at home.
Wasps at home, yeah. From about, it was just that, like I say, that timing of that run, mate. You were awesome at that.
Well, mate, thanks, mate.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah. It was a kind of good team back then. That was at the time when we were at Meadowbank, and I don't know what the club record is for tackles in a game these days, but I wonder if yours still stands. Was it 37?
Maybe we did. We played Munster on a Friday night, and I don't know how we won the game, having made nearly 300 tackles as a team. It was mental. It was mad. But yeah, it was 37. Which I think Ross Rennie may have made more, but he probably did an awful lot more the other side of the ball. I'll never forget Frank Haddon. He basically said to me, he said, "Crossley, not a ball player. So if you just want to hit those rucks and make your tackles, that's fine by us." I was like, thanks, Frank. That's good. Almost as advice for my first cap. With Ulster, we had about 20 minutes to play, and it was something like 13 13-11 or something like that with 15 to go. And he just said, he called me in. He was like, you're on, you're going on. And he was like, now, whatever you do, don't do anything stupid and bugger it up. And I was like, okay. Within a minute, I'd given away a penalty. David Humphries had slept up and slotted it. And I was like, before I say fortunately, I think Buffer then came back and actually hit one from the halfway line to win it. I think we ended up winning it something like 16-14 or something. But it was, just Frank's words ringing in my...
Mate, two things with that, right? First one, back to your 37 tackles. That is absolutely obscene. Like 37 tackles in a game is shocking. But the funny thing about that was that if you played a game and you made 37 tackles, I always thought you looked the same as if you came on for 10 minutes and made 5 tackles. Like at the end of the game, you were just like, oh, a broken man. But 37 tackles is absolutely ridiculous. And then the other bit I remember about, like, you know, when a coach kind of says, don't do anything stupid, you know, to a sub who's running on. Do you remember we were actually at the Dragons? I'll never forget this. And Ramond was his first game for Edinburgh. And he and basically, like, it was towards the end of the game and we were taking a bit of pressure, like right underneath our sticks. And like, he literally ran on the pitch, bless him, ran in, like dived on the ball, killed it, got yellow carded and ran straight back off the pitch. And I think it was his first ever like appearance for us. But yeah, he was a good player, but that
was finest, man. I think we lost by a point.
Yeah. What about a player who any player? This is just a question that someone asked me once, and you always get asked this. Who is the best player you ever played against? Yeah.
To be fair, there's a bloke. Not again. He isn't particularly well known, but there was a bloke called Christian Lebeat from Toulouse. He was a number 8, and he would start, and Issa Tolamaka would come on. And to be fair, Lebeat was unreal. Like he could play the game. He had all the skills, but he was just a really powerful man as well. Like tough to bring down, but again, all the skills in attack as well. So he was a good player. On
that video of Edinburgh playing Toulouse, like he is unreal. That guy. I forgot how good he was. He was class. Does he coach now?
Taylor played better than him that day. Taylor was immense that day. He just kept carrying the ball.
Yeah, some boy.
I thought Taylor outshone him that day. Taylor would be right up there in terms of a talent for sure. I mean, that guy, to come back from what he came back from with his injuries as well and kind of reinvent himself was pretty impressive. I don't think I've ever had more than like one conversation with him at a time before he would walk off. But at the same time, mate, he could play.
First time I ever met him, I actually played against him, and I was playing for Northampton, and he in the Heineken Cup, and he was playing for Edinburgh, and I was playing like 11 or 14 or something, and the whole game he was just running straight at me, like he was just making line break after line break, like as an 8.
Yeah,
and, like all day, like I was just like, oh my god, here he comes again, and like. But thankfully, because he was such a good player, he was basically just drawing and passing. So I didn't actually have to tackle it once, which was good.
Who's the guy you played against you think is the best?
Well, I'd say that like my kind of hero was Christian Cullen. He was like the best ever. But we played against him once when he played for Munster at the end. But he was, it was a really awful night. He was, I think, in his last season and stuff, but it was pretty cool to play against him. The only guy that I've ever played against who just like, the only way that I'd probably class this guy was actually unplayable. Like, I just don't think, no matter what you did, if this guy was going for it, like you could stop him, was that guy from Fiji, Rupini Thautau. So he was just like, he kind of played for Fiji in the World Cup in 2003, and then Arjen signed him. Like, I don't think he was even in particularly great nick that year. Like, scored more tries than they've seen in French rugby in a season. Like, he was like player of the season in France for that year, even though Arjen were nowhere near the best team. Like, he was just I still almost can't really understand why he was so good. You know, yes, he was like really fast. Yes, he was really strong. But you know, if you got close to him, he could just knock you off. If he got away from you, you couldn't catch him. Like his step, but then he could also he could offload, and he was just sensational. That guy. He's the only guy who I reckon was kind of unplayable. He just
maybe we've had a couple of those. You remember Tommy Phillip when he was on his when he's first came through, and Rob Dewey. Remember Dewey? Let's say people couldn't get anywhere near.
Yeah. Do you reckon though that was that kind of like first? Like, I guess, like, I kind of sometimes think that we were like a generation coming through, which were maybe kind of trying to move the game forward a little bit from obviously the guys who were 5 years older than us. But then like those guys like Tom Phillip and Dewey, those guys were almost like kind of pushing the bar on again, because like I remember when those guys turned up, like DeLuca as well. Like when he turned up, like he was just a kid. But like physically, he was like good to go. Like these guys were, like we were probably maybe a bit fitter and a bit stronger than the guys before, just because we'd done a couple of years in the gym. But these guys, like it was like they'd been in the gym for like 5 years. Like Ross Rennie, like oh my god, like Ross Rennie, how strong is that guy? He never actually used to tackle anyone. He used to just take the ball. Like, that was it.
Rip the ball out of that. So when Ross was an Olympic skier, but then you had Alan McDonald. And you're right, but those guys, Dave Callum, big, strong blokes.
Yeah. Alan McDonald.
Alan
McDonald, he was a good player.
Alan was really good. He's a doctor now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Over in Ireland.
He's like a lot of back row guys, though. Just a lot of you back row guys, just like so good, but then just get injured a lot, and it's hard position.
To be fair, it is. It's the sort of the back row, and even now, it's still the same thing. Back row centres are the guys who are constantly in it. And this is to be fair, the game has changed now. When you're sitting around team rooms now, compared to probably where we were, 20 years ago, really, it's different, mate. The boys are massive and collisions are massive. Because remember back in the day, you had big 18, 19 stone blokes, but they weren't travelling very fast.
Yeah.
And actually, the easy ones to bring down. It was the smaller, more compact guys that were harder to bring down. But see, now those 19 stoners they're moving. It's a game.
Yeah, no. Who do you like in the Scotland team or in the Edinburgh team?
I like Richie. I think he's got a bit about him. Again, he's kind of he's one of those lads that was targeted early doors. He's done a decent job. He came through as a youngster, and I like the look at him. I think Gilco's done a good job for a long time. And I'd be remiss to say I think Fordy's done a great job up there as well for a long time. I would have loved to have seen Fordy in the Premiership at some point, because actually it would have tested him in a different way in terms of that piece scrap. And I think he would have killed the Premiership with his strength and his skill set.
The reason I always remember when Robbo took over, because it was just after the 2007 World Cup, and we came back.
Yeah.
And Mike was just like in some of the best form he was ever in. Like I think he went something. It might have even been like 7 games on the bounce, like man of the match. And I think that was the year he was like, maybe I don't know if that was the year. Don't quote me, everyone. But when he was like kind of World Player of the Year in the top 5 nomination, and like he was just, he was like that was the best I saw him play kind of that year. I thought he was brilliant. But that was the year that Robbo, so it was after the 2007 World Cup, so autumn 2007, yeah.
Because it all kicked on. So because Robbo just brought a different dimension to everything, didn't he? He just came in and in a way that Frank wasn't a guy who liked confrontation. He was a very technical coach, and he was very much about game plan, and this is what we're doing, and crack on. And it was a very fluid, wide game, but not really a plan B. I don't ever remember there being a plan B. So people came hard at us in defence, and we were trying to go wide on a wet, crappy day in Connacht. It was hard, and we got swallowed up and we lost gain line. But actually, it worked well at times, and like I say, for what we had, it's guys like Marcus Torollo with that passing game. It was unreal. And then you moved to Howler, who was not that fussed about kind of technical, tactical bits. It was follow me, fellas, and let's go. it was carnage. It was organised carnage, and it was awesome for a bit. You know what I mean? It was like he just loved playing for Howler.
Mate, he used to cry he used to kind of he used to cry giving his team talk before a
Oh,
game. But like,
yeah.
I was like, I was just, I mean, that kind of stuff, I kind of, sometimes it works for me. Like I used to love that guy. I like playing full in-house. He was great.
It's funny because, and now being back in Wales, or being in Wales now, it's like you speak about Lynn, and boys just they all love him. They just sort of people start laughing and smiling when they talk about Lynn because the kind of character he was.
I'm not so sure about going back inside though. That day it started raining. I'm sure one day it started raining and he walked back inside the office. to be fair, I think the session was pretty much done. I think the session was over, but I think he was like, I'm off.
Mate, I remember a 15-on-15 session in about a 10-meter channel. And I remember Ali at the bottom of this sort of, well, could only be described as 25-man ruck or maul or something. And he's gone blue. Ali Warnock is at the bottom of this thing and he's gone blue. And basically the whistle just starts going, boom, and he goes, everyone roll away. Hulk is dying. Ali Warnock's just lying on the floor. I can't breathe, blue in the face. Brilliant. But no, mate, he was, 4 hands on ball was my Right, and then Robbo comes up and it's like, and it's just a man who just lives in tension. The room is tense, like the meetings are tense. He's brutally honest in a way that actually we hadn't really seen before. Easy for me. Best roommate was Webbo, and actually the older we got to choose who we wanted to roommate with, so that was easy. Worst roommate, without a shadow of a doubt, Craig Smith.
I obviously kind of shared a flat with Crossy, so it was great to just hang out with him. Obviously, we're close, but Craig Smith. He also did a thing with Craig Smith where, I don't know if you remember this, Crossy, but he used to fall asleep sitting on the throne. Do you remember that? It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I love the bloke, awesome bloke, but just you don't want to.
Yeah, what a guy. Be good to see that guy again. He's a good guy.
I think it would have to be Derek Lee, who had the driest sense of humour I've ever come across in my life. I mean, there were stories of Derek who. There was a Scotland B game, and it was, I think it was Greco or somebody in the changing room. The coach was going around the change trying to fire everybody up. To hook her in the country. Oh, it's me. And it's some Derek Lee. Who's the best fullback in the country? And Derek just about said, well, I think on present form, I think Stuart Lang's playing really well. They killed dude in the changing room, but it just but that was Derek. And the other one with Derek was his relationship with Kendo, who Ken McEwen was an outstanding fitness coach. He's a great bloke. He's an absolute hero. But he and Desi had this kind of relationship where Desi would somehow miss every single session of pre-season, turn up on the first day of rugby training and be fit and all the rest of it. And there was one year where he had both knees done at the same time, deliberately so that he wouldn't have to do any running. And he came into, and Ken just found out, and he was fuming. And then Kendo comes in and he goes, Derek, I'm not going to be able to see you for the next 6 weeks. And he goes, and Derek's like, it's okay, Kendo. I said, I can't do the bleep test. He says, but I can do the fat test. The whole room just gone, and Kendo's got steam coming out of his ears. Just mutters to himself. Away.
Ken McEwen, honestly, you could actually do a 30-minute special on Ken McEwen. That guy is sensational. I don't know if he's at the SRU anymore. Maybe but no, of course he retired. I'm pretty sure he went to his retirement party. Yeah, what a guy. Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? Like Derek Lee. Sorry, I feel like I'm copying Crossy's answers, but honestly, I don't know what it was about that guy. He could actually say good morning to you, and it was just he was just unbelievable. But he was just I don't know. I find it hard to describe how funny he was. Joel Brannigan actually used to make me wet myself as well. He was a funny boy.
Yeah.
Do you know what Buffer was? I think a lot of people misunderstood Buffer because he was kind of larger than life personality. And yeah, you know, he was over in Edinburgh and he enjoyed his time in Edinburgh as well as playing his rugby. But he was brilliant for like the young guys. I remember like one of my first days, he kind of got on my back about like passing, and he was just like, "Why are you kind of throwing these kind of loopy, rubbishy passes? Like, you know, we're out here to train. Like, you know, if you throw a pass like you mean it." And it was such a small thing, but having like an older guy, you know, onto you at day one, like, don't just come out here and just start jogging around. Like, we come out, we train, we go in, you know, job done. So Buffer was brilliant. Like, he was a brilliant player. He scored a try for Edinburgh against Munster where he ran it in from the halfway line, and he probably went past about 5 Munster players, but he didn't actually break into a sprint once because he was just so good with the ball, and he threw about 5 dummies. I don't know if you remember that try, Crossy.
I do, because I was on the inside of him, and he could have given it to me at any point.
Yeah.
I've never scored. So I was like, I'm here, but and he was just like, dummy, 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 score. Like,
He was great for the club. He was great for Edinburgh. Yeah.
He is, but those guys they're worth their weight in gold, because everyone talks about, you know, foreign players coming in, and there shouldn't be any foreign players. It should all be homegrown. It's nonsense, because you get a Blackadder or a Laney in the mix, or even a guy like Benny Meyer, who people probably wouldn't even remember or know. But culturally, those guys are unbelievable, because this is how you train, this is how you work hard, and this is what we do, and this is how we get better. And they just see things in a different way. And having a couple around the place is, like, say, for what Buffer did to you, for what Blackadder did for me, and I think for what Benny Meyer did for the club when he was around, those guys are just like, are invaluable.
I think Derek Lee, when I first turned up, like, he was in the back three. Like, I kind of played next to the guy, and like, I don't know, I just, like, you know, with Scotland, like, you know, Mossy, like a different type of player, but like Mossy, worth his weight in gold. You know, like the World Cup in 2007, we wouldn't have got to a quarter final. He was worth his weight in gold. But like, yeah, Derek Lee, he was almost kind of unassuming as well. You know, like his handoff crossy. Do you remember that thing? It was like getting hit by a sledgehammer, and he wasn't a big guy as well. Yeah. So just because he's back three, I'm going to say Derek.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of guys for me. One who I think got the recognition eventually would have been Chunk. You know, I'm delighted he got his caps and stuff, because he was awesome almost all the time. And everyone said, oh, he's too small, he's too this, or he's too... Nonsense. The guy was unbelievable, and the meters he made and the tackles he put in close to the breakdown, he was awesome. And eventually he got the credit he deserved. I think the one guy I feel the most sorry for, probably because he was kind of I kind of mentored him as I was finishing and he was starting, and he never got capped, and I could never get my head around it, was Roddy Grant. What he did, I didn't get a chance to play with him an awful lot. But he's just a great pro, a really good bloke, and he could play the game. And for him to have never got capped at the quality that he played in, week out for Edinburgh, was just staggering for me. I was gutted for him, really, because he was a hell of a player. Pretty easy for me. It would be Mike Blair, Matt Day, Simon Webster, and we would be on a golf course somewhere, and we play for a cup every year.
Hey, aren't we the defending champions?
Are we 2-0, or is it just one?
Yeah, no, we definitely won last year.
Yeah, we're defending champions, and I'm very, very much looking forward to that. That's my annual highlight boys weekend away.
Like, obviously, Crossy doesn't live in Edinburgh anymore, so they don't kind of see as much of him as we'd like. But Mike's not far from me. Matt, we don't see quite as much. But yeah, I catch up with Mike quite a bit. And to be honest, I'm not involved in the kind of rugby circles much these days. But it's really nice kind of sitting down and having a pint with Mike and just kind of understanding a little bit more about it, because like you leave and then like you just turn into a fan. You know, as soon as you walk out the door, you know, you don't know exactly what the team are trying to do and the tactics. You don't know like the kind of chat in the kind of changing room. So yeah, like sitting down having a pint with Mike and just, you know, getting into that kind of talking rugby again. I like doing that. Guys, I've got to go because there's someone coming to price something at 6 o'clock.
No, never do calendar ever.
Catch you later, Crossy.
Stay safe, everyone.